Hello! Welcome once again to Exit Strategy. This is the podcast where we ask comedians, what would you do with your life if comedy was no longer a part of it? It's a tough decision. It's a tough conversation. Sometimes it's a little hard to think about what you would do with your life if you weren't spending so much time on these creative endeavors. Today on the show, I have Steve Hernandez, who's sort of a fixture in the Los Angeles comedy scene. Anybody who has been in L.A. comedy for the past 10 years, come up in L.A. comedy, or watched some shows, might have some familiarity with Steve. He is the creator of the Chatterbox Comedy Night in Covina, California, which is every Sunday night in Covina, California. He has created this show, which I would call a out-of-town show that's in town. It is this little community of comedy that happens just far enough out of Los Angeles to make it feel like it's a road show, but just close enough that it attracts the LA comedy scene in general. And it's a nice little mixture of local feel and top-notch Los Angeles comedy. Steve is very good at fostering environments for people to perform and people to express themselves. He's created a lot of platforms for comedians over the years. He's created so many. This guy used to create open mics all the time. It just kept happening. He'd start them up and give people another opportunity, another night of the week to express themselves. And we're very grateful for that, Steve. Good job. Good job indeed. Steve came to me for the show on an interesting point, and an interesting point for myself as well. He's feeling I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he's feeling a frustration of where he is in his career. There's a very specific set of circumstances that he'll get into in the podcast as you listen. And I also, too, have found myself sort of frustrated at this particular moment. It's just an interesting confluence of similar thought where we're both sort of taking stock in what we've done, where we are, and what makes us happy in this world of stand-up comedy. And I got to tell you, this is just me speaking. This isn't Steve. You'll hear what he has to say later on. But I feel frustrated at the moment, and I feel as though in this particular point, I am in between projects, probably, if I had to self-diagnose of what's happening. I've created a show in Los Angeles that's been running for 4 years now. I've created this podcast and started a creative job. Now, when you start all of these things, it's very new. It's very fresh. You learn the do's, the don'ts, the trial and error that goes into a creative process and getting it off the ground. But then after a while, it just sort of becomes routine. The amount of prep work that I have to do to put on a show every week is it's on autopilot. I know how to do it all. I know how to set up that room. I know how to create the flyer. I know how to do it. It's not a big creative lift for me. This podcast, I cannot tell you how much time used to go into figuring out just how to use this program and to get it right and to learn what questions to ask and how to guide the conversation. It's a trial and error process, and there's excitement when you get a new creative project. I think right now I'm at the point where the creativity spark has sort of dimmed a little on these projects. I still get value out of them. I still find bits and pieces that teach, like learning moments in all of it. But it isn't the spark. I'm looking for a new project. So right now I'm in that, if you know this feeling, it's that period in between creative projects where something's going to come. It's just not quite there yet. And there's nothing more frustrating than knowing something's around the corner, but you don't know when and you don't know what. But someday it'll come and I'll be ready for it, baby. I'm just trying to keep a level head on it about it because when you live in, I'm going to say when you live in Los Angeles, but it's probably true for other cities. And now that the internet is a thing, probably actually literally any creative pursuit that is put out in this world might have this problem. I want to be wary of this next creative project that I go into because the excitement of a new project is so pure and so fulfilling and really pushes you forward. But nothing starts to sully that experience like then viewing your creative project through the prism of likes and shares and comments and popularity and publicity and pushing it to the other next level. I would love it if in my life I could do a creative project and not have to worry if anybody ever saw it. But luckily, in this day and age, the thing about starting a new creative project, especially one that's going to be put out over the airwaves or there's going to be people in the seats, is that you have a very keen viewpoint of how well something is or isn't performing. And that gets very frustrating. And it's very, it would be nice to be able to do creative projects in a vacuum where you're doing it just for your own enjoyment. But the second you start asking people to check it out, tune in, like, and subscribe, it gets a little bit daunting because then you just got to become your own publicity team. And that's a full-time job. But somehow us creatives have to also do that on top of what we do creatively. And am I complaining? Yeah, probably. Are you like, whine? Yeah, maybe. But at the moment, it's very frustrating. So I guess the solution to this problem, if I could offer one, is twofold. One, I would say that for me personally, whenever this new creative thing comes in, I got to remind myself, don't turn it into a need to be the next big thing. Do what you do and enjoy it for what it is. Maybe don't have to push it out into the world as your rocket ship to the top. Not every project you do needs to be a potential career. It can just be for your own mental well-being and creative outlet. And the second thing I would throw on to the listener, and I would say, because creatives that you know have a hard life and struggle with these weird moments in their lives where they are doing something that seems very hard, but there doesn't seem to be any feedback for them because oftentimes there just isn't an outlet for people to criticize. I mean, criticize in a good way, but offer critical opinions about things or support or just any sort of feedback at all, because that doesn't seem to exist. We need to remind ourselves that when you see something good, when you see something that you like, when you see something that inspires you, you got to tell the person that does inspire you. You got to tell them that I support what you're doing and I really appreciate what you're doing, because it's just going to help people get over that next hump. It's going to get them to the place they need to be to keep creating. It's going to give them that one little extra oomph to keep going. And I think to segue into our guest, Steve Hernandez is very good at that because he creates opportunities for people to speak their minds on stage. And one of the things that I admire about him in this is that he is the booker of a show, but you really get the sense that he cares about what he's doing in making these lineups. He cares about watching people start from the bottom at the open mics that he's created and watch them grow and see themselves grow and grow into better and better comedians. And he rewards that talent. And we gotta give our hats off to people who take time to invest in the scene and foster talent and let them know that they're doing a good job and giving them an outlet for going out there and improving and learning their craft. So hats off to all the people who are boosting the creatives out in that world. Let's keep letting them know that what they're doing is the right move, because we all put our eggs in this one basket, and we need assurance constantly. We're very needy people. But I'm kidding and also not kidding. Okay, let's get to it. Enough about this. This is like a regular Mark Maron intro over here. We've been going so long. I don't usually talk this much just myself, but it's just one of those weeks. Okay, but now I've got a great guest. I've got a great discussion. I really love talking to him and getting into it, and I hope you're ready for more along the lines of frustrated creatives, because that's what you're going to get here with my interview here. We've got Steve Hernandez on Exit Strategy. Thank you for coming on the show, Steve, even though you're battling illness.
Yeah, it's okay. It's the tail end.
It's
really,
the tail end?
Yeah, like
Okay.
I've just taken Dayquil, and I would just be sitting. I'm a little uncomfortable, but I'm glad to be here.
Well, I just lean into that discomfort, like it's an actor's secret. Like
Yeah.
really, just embrace it as this is what's going to inform all your answers today.
Yes, I'm very into being. I'm reading this book. It's called like The Movies That Changed Everything. It's about the like class of. I'm sure you've heard of it, but like I don't know, the class of Best Picture of 1967 features The Graduate, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, In the Heat of the Night. These 5 pictures, Bonnie and Clyde. You know what book I'm talking about?
I think I can picture the cover.
Yeah. Well, they dissect all of those movies and how they were made and cast and the money and everything. But there's this one part on page 292. I memorized that because I wanted to share it with Julia. But Dustin Hoffman, they were talking about Dustin Hoffman. It was Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman, and I forgot who the woman was. I believe it was Shelley Duvall. Mm-hmm. But she was saying, "Oh yeah, they cast people. The people that get a lot of work are the people that come in and when they what's the thing, audition?
Yeah,
it's like they get a lot of work but what you see is what you get. People like us, we take a long time to figure out the character and everything like that. So we don't work as much, but we like do better work. And I just thought that was so interesting, especially coming to do this podcast where it's like, oh man, it's for the mix of people you have is really interesting because some of them have kind of made it.
Yeah. When I first started the show, I sort of thought that I had to fit under this umbrella of guests of like people that legitimately like they would be leaving something. But then I kind of realized like if you at any level have pursued stand-up, you really have given up certain aspects of your life. Like even if you've only done it for 5 years, like you've really steered your life in a direction that's pretty uncompromising.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't you can get out, but I guess you never wanted in. I mean, did you ever have a regular life?
I feel like my story is that I always sort of, I don't know, I sort of feel like I ride the line. Like sometimes I feel like now I kind of feel like I have a real life more than I have a comedy life sometimes. You know what I mean?
But so you feel like you've always had maybe one fit in, one fit out?
I also feel like we were just talking before we were recording. I took a day job at a school that was like to be responsible, but then also it just ruined like my being able to be out in the prime years of when I probably should have been like out every night, all night.
Yeah.
So it's just like kind of a little of this, a little of that. But I never had like a life where I was like, I'm going to be an office manager or something like that.
I did. So I started stand-up when I was pretty old. I started when I was 32.
That is pretty old.
Yeah, I think the only person who started older than me is maybe Amy Miller.
Yeah.
But I think she might have even been 30. So there's like a couple of people. Dean Del Rey is one of them. But
it's a rarity to start at that age.
Yeah. I've already had a regular life.
Yeah.
So there's like nothing to me. I mean, I could tell you. We'll get later on the podcast. I'll tell you what I would do.
You're gonna like pivot maybe back. You'll be like, my exit strategy is what I used to do.
But I've had a life where I wasn't doing stand up, and I was very sad.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm very sad now sometimes. So
yeah, but you don't have I'm sure you didn't have an outlet for it. Like, what was your day job, and what was your life if you encapsulated it? What would it be?
I was just bartending.
Yeah.
And restaurant working and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I didn't have an outlet.
So your outlet's just going home at the end of the night and watching.
I would cook dinner for my wife. She would have a regular job, and we would watch Bravo.
See, so you were like, I think that's what a lot of people get satisfaction out of. They're just like, I do my work, and then this is my relaxation. This is my time where I am me, and then that's that. But did you find, I guess, when you were going to get into stand-up, was there like an itch? Like you're like,
well, I
got to get out.
You know this, but whatever. It's for the podcast.
Act like you're talking to someone.
I was a youth pastor until I was like 23 or 24. Yeah. So that was a whole different thing, and I felt like that was a calling. So I didn't think I would ever have that again. Yeah. So I had that thing that was a calling. I stopped doing that, and then I was just like fucking around until I started doing comedy again, and found this other thing that I would call a calling. I mean, there's a lot of spiritual implications with that thing that I'm not comfortable with either.
Yeah.
But it feels like, oh yeah, I was born to do this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that interim period where you're a bartender, it kind of just sounds like you're just sort of like in between two phases of your life. Like it's not that like almost isn't even a real life.
No, yeah.
It's just sort of getting you to the next.
Yeah, and I was like kind of behind everyone too in terms of partying and everything, because I had been Christian for so long. So it felt like I needed to like burn some midnight oil and like fuck things up. And then, the Bible, there's a story of the prodigal son, and he gets all this inheritance from his father before the dad dies, and he blows it. And there's a point where he's like in the mud, trying to eat the pig's food, and he goes like, maybe I can just go back to my dad's house and be a servant. That's where I was.
Yeah.
I had like had a great time, and then there's just nothing for me in that life. So
yeah, that's the old you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm still very much trying to put that side of me away, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you've calmed down. I mean, just knowing you, it feels like you've calmed down over the years a little bit.
I have calmed down a little bit. I stopped drinking almost 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Now, I've taken different amounts, 6 months off, a year off, but this time I'm just like really done.
Yeah.
I'm too old for it. I blacked out before, and there was a good couple of years where I didn't black out at all. And then right before I quit, I blacked out, I think 3 or 4 times in a couple months.
Yeah.
Which is like absolutely not okay for an adult person to do.
Yeah, there's a definite age where you learn where that line is, and then you don't cross that line.
I just
anymore.
can't. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm just. I care too much about people, and I just if I can't be responsible for my actions. Like, how many times can you say you're sorry if you're just a big old fucking bore?
Yeah.
Like BOAR. Yeah, just running down like a china shop and stuff. So, yeah, I'm trying to figure out. You've caught me in a real interesting place where it's like, all right, well, what are we going to do now? How long have you been doing comedy?
I have been doing comedy since 2008. So this will be, I know, I always forget when the anniversary is, but I think 11 just hit one of these past months.
Yeah, I always thought you had about 2 years on me, and that sounds right. I'm coming up on my 9 year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, stopping to drink and figuring out where the next place for me to go. I mean, comedically, I'm doing well. I do well at shows, and I feel like I have the respect of my peers, but I think I was just really focusing on trying to be funny, and I don't think it matters much in this town.
Yeah, it's true. It really is. It really is. It's unfortunate that it's not a meritocracy, and that, like, I'm sure that it does happen for some people, but being, they say be undeniable, and I don't think that that's necessarily enough. You do need to play the game, and you do need to have a lot of different skills that aren't innate in all comedians.
It is like they don't be undeniable. I don't even know what the fuck they're talking about when they say that, because I can go do that on a stage.
Yeah.
That's fine, and I love podcasting. I'm pretty good at podcasting too, but I also understand. I think what the industry wants is to be able to look at you and package you in a way.
Yeah.
And I think I've made that very difficult for them. That's my fault. And I want to apologize right now, and
Sorry,
I'm willing to make any amends that I can.
Yeah, I think it's even more than that though now too. Like, if you really look at what they want you to, because I was just got a little frustrated the other day, and I was just thinking about why I'm so tired sometimes. Like, why when you hit the wall, it really feels extra, I don't know, just like an extra kick in the pants, is that it's not just enough to work on being funny or work on your stage presence. There's this whole side level of, like, you have to learn how to present yourself on several social media platforms. You have to learn how to do you just sort of have to spread yourself so thin in so many different places, and every one of those places 10 years ago was a full-time job of somebody else. You know what I mean?
Geez, you're absolutely right. I didn't even think about that.
It's too much for one person to do, and I just am getting tired of juggling sometimes because of that.
Yeah, no, I don't know what the next move is. I'm going to be hitting the road a lot more, so I think that might be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't. This is literally. It might be because I'm sick too. I'm a little down. But I'm usually not that much. But I've been going to the Comedy Store.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. I'm going to. I'm turning my back on the East Side, turning my back on alternative comedy.
Yeah.
Where I don't think they want me or have any need for me. But I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I got brought up in alternative comedy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm actually curious about that, because I don't have any familiarity with the store, but my outside perception of it is that you are definitely rewarded and brought into the community there the more you show up. Now that you've had 9 years of comedy behind you, are you going in with a little cachet, or are you sort of starting from scratch at some point?
I think you're starting from scratch.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the door guys, and compared to when we first started comedy, what the door guys were like and what the Comedy Store was like is just different.
Yeah.
Like they're all pretty good comics, or most of them are pretty good comics. They're all pretty good guys. They're still kind of, and this is something that always bothered me about the store, they're still kind of a little mean or like nonchalant, where if you see them anywhere else, they'll be nice.
Yeah, there is a built-in attitude there that I always found uncomfortable.
Yeah, I just don't get it. It like doesn't have to be that way. I don't understand. Like they know I'm a good comic and we're friends and everything, but they'll be like, "Oh, hey, these are like door guys that are my friends." Like, "Oh, hey man, what's up?" Like that, real quiet and like won't look you in the eye. And I'm like, "What are you? Come on now." Now I've only been going there 2 months. I am like at a place where the East Side and alternative comedy as we know it is like I don't even know what that is anymore.
I don't think
it's not a thing
anymore. It doesn't really
right?
exist. I mean, this neighborhood alone on a Saturday night, it would be like you'd go to one show and then you could just, if you didn't like that one, you'd walk across the street to the other show. There was like a lot going on, and people very much identified this neighborhood in particular with comedy. But even though we all still live here, there's not a community of artists meeting in a one place in this neighborhood.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out what it is. Julie and I have talked about it, and I don't know, maybe like the generation after us didn't really start anything.
Yeah.
Where they didn't start any mics or start any shows, and I think that's all kind of key to everything. I know people do stuff at the Lyric Hyperion, so I don't. Yeah. That's not but I don't know.
I feel it's out there. I think though that as we get older, it's harder for us to find it.
That might be true. And I did a house show like a month ago with maybe 5 or 6 other comics, and all the comics were pretty good. And I don't recognize their name. Yeah, I'm pretty plugged in, too. I don't recognize their name, their face. They might be some of these kind of actor-y people who have like a good 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But I was at a house party that was 150 people, like jam-packed, great show, and everyone was like pretty good. So it's like it very well might exist out there. But, I don't know what it is anymore.
We just aren't as tapped in as we used to. Ever since I gave up booking my show, when people the lineup shows up, I don't know who they are. I have to like look their tape up before I host a show because I can't make a lineup because I don't know. It's literally just a list of names. I don't know who anybody is anymore.
Who books your show now?
Simone.
And she or they, I don't know. They set up the lineup and they go, "Oh, this person's funny. This person's a little weak."
We've left it all up to her. She's very good at creating a balance of good and like somebody who sort of maybe needs to be put in the middle. They might have some weak spots, but you have like the person who brings people in. And then you have the people who are just always reliable, and then there's one or two like, hey, let's give them a shot. And she's good at that. That's an art.
Oh yeah,
That's really hard to do.
Oh yeah, and that's good that you still give people shots like that. I mean, that's all part of the community. If I didn't start an alternative comedy, then I don't think I would not be the same person I am right now. I would not be as. My stuff is very queer. So it is interesting going to the store now where I'm like, I'm counting on like it's going to take me a couple years to break in over there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figure.
It's just like I go every Monday, and then I got to figure out other times to go too, because I know it's like I need to feel more comfortable there, because I can get up. I know enough door guys where they'll get me up like once a month. The first time I got up, I murdered. I did really well. The second time I got up, I did just okay. But I can tell I'm just still scared of that place. Yeah. And I'm like, grow up. I mean, like you're a good comic, and I'm watching the other comics. 180 people show up there on Monday nights to do the open mic, but most of them are terrible, and they haven't like done half of what I've done or anything like that. So it's just like relax. So I wish there was more mics, or I'm gonna figure out a way where I can go 2 or 3 times a week, and me get comfortable there.
Yeah.
And I just also don't like the idea of hanging out on the patio. But maybe I'll just go watch the comedy.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that you got to do. I mean, you just have to be present because, like, if you're not there, you don't exist.
Yeah,
and that's not true just as Comedy Store. That's everywhere. Like,
oh yeah. That's
the comedy scene needs to constantly be reminded that you exist.
Oh, I know. I mean, well, there's just so many of us. Yeah. There's so many. I was talking to a comic who's a very good comic, and we were driving, and this person was like, I was like, oh, because you go to the Comedy Store, you do the potluck, and Adam, the booker's watching. And this comic is a very good comic. She's very funny. And then I was like, yeah. And I was like, you know, if you have a good set, you got to go, like, shake Adam's hand after. That's what you're supposed to do. And this comic was like, I'm not doing that. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to kiss his ass. I just did this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah.
This is L.A., bro. Like, I was like, that's like, if that thing is upsetting you, that you got to shake the booker's hand afterwards, I was like, I don't know what to tell you. And this comic is very funny, too. So I'm like, first off, I don't know why Adam isn't going after comics as a booker. Like, I don't know why he isn't hunting down the best of L.A.
Yeah.
That would
be
be
true.
I don't think any of the clubs have any kind of artistic director or anybody who's like, dude, who are the best comics right now artistically?
Yeah. They
don't give a shit. They just wait for them. They don't need to, granted, but I would imagine it hurts them.
I mean, you could create. I mean, I don't think it's going to come from anywhere that exists now because they're so stuck in their ways. They've been doing the same thing since the 70s. But I mean, I think that's the key. And I think the closest it probably came was maybe Jamie when he was at Improv. But even then, as a booker of that place, he still had so many things he had to.
Well, they just had so many produced shows by like separate independent producers.
You'd have no idea who's going to be on your stage.
Yeah. So he was like, oh, okay, I'm just plugging people in to get these. And I don't know if that was some directive that he had or what.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like the store where you can keep moving people up.
Yeah.
But who knows? I don't know. That's the only place. It's one of the best clubs in the country. I don't know if comedy clubs are fucking. I don't know if they're going extinct or not. But I'd be a fool to be like to live 15 minutes from one of the best in the world and to not like put in my time. Because also I started here, so to me I'm like, dude,
if you have to hit it at some point.
Yeah, you didn't have to move anywhere. Just pretend you're moving, and this is just. You got to fucking put up with this shit. It's going to take a year for people to realize that you're a good comic there, and then a couple of years for you to be in with everybody. Just go fucking do the work.
You could always move into the comedy condo in the back.
They have one?
They used to. I don't think it's still there anymore. I know that the way that the housing market is, there's no way that there could be a comedy crash pad. But at one point, there's like a whole, I think maybe Variety did an oral history of it, but it was like where Andrew Dice Clay lived and Sam Kinison.
Yeah, I've heard of them partying
Marin,
up there.
Yeah, it's just like basically the Train Spotting house, but for comedy, for comedians. I don't think it exists, but if it doesn't, hey, let's build a new one. I wanted to talk to you. I mean, speaking of these new comedians not creating mics, I'm talking to somebody who created a lot of shows, mics, podcasts. You always sort of are. There seems to be a need of yours to create a new platform for you and other people. Where does this come from?
I don't know. I used to be a pastor.
Yeah.
Julia, I keep saying Julia. It's Julia Loken. She's my girlfriend. Yuck. Now that's one reason
Your
why.
GF, baby.
Yeah, that's one reason why it's good to get married is you could just say your wife. That like gives them the thing.
I was getting tired of saying fiance.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wouldn't even.
Gross.
Yeah, that's bad. But she's like my artistic partner. She's like we're really entwined in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But and she would say that it was in my star chart and stuff like that, my astrology stuff. That it's all in there. I don't know. I care about the community. I used to be a pastor. I mean, it's still a lot of ways I care about people. I love comedy. I like to watch open mics. I like to like watch the people get better. We've got like a crew over at the Chatterbox. We've got like maybe 7 or 8 like comedians that have come up in the last 5 years that I'm like really proud of that like call themselves like Chatterbox comedians.
Yeah.
And they're almost like all Latinos, which when I got, it was me and John, what was his name? Kyle Kinane's old roommate.
Oh, I don't know.
You know who I'm talking about, though, right?
I think I do.
Yeah, there was just one Mexican guy.
Yeah.
There was like no other. So it's like,
which is crazy in Los Angeles.
well, of course, but that was alternative comedy, and like Latino comedy is still ghettoized in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the real flood. It's all happening now. You know, the Great White Hope is, of course, Chris Estrada.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he's
He's the golden boy.
so good.
Yeah, he's so good, and he's a nice cross in between. He could play a Latino audience, he could play an alternative audience, he could play a mainstream audience. But I just like doing that. I like the community. That's all. I guess it's like church, right?
Yeah.
Everything's like church.
When you create these churches of comedy,
And I love working. I love working with people. I mean, that's the only reason. If you ever see me start a podcast, it's because it's like, oh, I think it would be interesting to have a good relationship, a good friendship with this person over a long period of time. It's rarely the concept. I look for a concept for a hook, but it's really like, oh, I would like this person to be my friend in 5 years. And I know that, especially in Los Angeles, the only way to do that is to start a project.
it has to be a project. I mean, that's the bitter pill you have to swallow sometimes in comedy is you have all these people that you come up with and you're so tight, but then everybody's doing their own thing that comes to a point where like there's some people I love and we love seeing each other, but just
twice a year, 3 times a year.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be a birthday party or we are just not in the same room. But the big show that you created was the Chatterbox show in Covina, which I guess just if anybody here doesn't know about it, it is sort of the road gig that's in town, I would say.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is.
Probably. But give a little, I guess, elevator pitch of what Chatterbox is.
Chatterbox is a bar out in Covina, California. My older brother's best friend, a guy named Ralph, bought it, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it's a great dive bar / lounge. I work there. I bartend there on Thursdays and Fridays, and I have for the past 11 years. We started Chatterbox right when we started comedy, Scott Lurs and I. So the first year was once a month. The second year was twice a month. And then since the past 7 years, it's been weekly.
Yeah.
So it's really tied to that. We have a great audience that have been coming for years. And I think the internet plays a big part in it, too. There's not really any, like... I think if you're a comedy savvy, you're comedy savvy. I think that's everywhere. So there's people I talk to, like cholos and stuff, that watch like all the stuff that we watch, and they're like, oh, hey, yeah, that sketch show is like dope. And like, you're like, are you just high and watching this shit on Netflix? And it's like, yeah, they're just high and watching the same shit, and it makes them laugh too.
Yeah.
So it's a blue-collar bar. There's a lot of Mexicans, some whites, very few black people. We're always trying to get them in. Come in, free drink from me.
That's the policy.
Yeah, always. One time I was bartending, it was almost like 2, and these 2 black guys were like, hey, can we play one more game of pool? And I was like, we never have just 2 black guys playing pool in here. Let it roll, baby.
Let's open the door for that.
Yeah, let's just do it. But it's a real working class. It's a smart room. It's a fair room. It's every Sunday night at 9:00. And yeah, you could really, a lot of magic can happen there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a bar show and it's fine. But a lot of times, and I don't think it happens too often in Los Angeles, there's something about the room where it could just really take off and it could just start churning and it becomes like one of those magical nights. So, yeah, I do that. And then we have an open mic now on Thursdays when I work. I wanted to have an open mic while I was working. And that's been going for 5 years. And that's awesome. And we have hosts we're turning people that host the mic into hosting the show. I'm trying to work myself out of there completely. I mean, I want to end it.
You want to end the Chatterbox?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a weekly is a grind, and you've been doing that
9 years.
9 years, yeah.
So, dude, I mean, I'm telling you.
I hear you.
I keep threatening them. I keep saying, and I keep telling them, I was like, if you guys give me 3 bad shows in a row, it's done. I was like, it's over.
You just put the line on the little chart there.
I'm just,
we got one.
We had a light show for the last Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It was still turned out to be like pretty good, and it's like fun and everything, but it was light. And I was like, they weren't really cooking either. And I was like, ooh, I swear to God. Oh, and that was the Avengers too.
Yeah, that week was rough. It was rough on ours too.
But I was like, just give me 3 in a row. I'd love to fucking just stop showing up.
Well, the reason that I wanted to talk to you about it was because I had Lisa Chanou on last week, and I was talking about the Chatterbox with her, and I realized that it's been so long since I've been there that I don't think I have a good grasp on it. And I was curious, like, how many. It's been going for 9 years, and you did say there's like there's such a thing as a Chatterbox comic. Someone who came up in Chatterbox. How many waves of Chatterbox comics are we on at this point? It's got to be more than one.
It's just
right?
this one.
It's
They're
just
all
the
like
one?
at like 5-year mark, 4-year mark.
But there hasn't been the Chatterbox babies yet.
There are
Yeah.
people at like 1 year in, but these like people that I'm talking about, Steve Moreno, Gerardo Alacron, Josh Michaels. There's more, and forgive me, guys. There's this young, fat, autistic, gay kid who's 21, 22, named Ryan Reyes, who is a fucking murderer. And yeah, I mean, he's so funny, and he's like a phenom, and he's only been doing it, I think, a year and a half.
Yeah.
But if I let him open for anyone, he would murder. Like he's just he has his character down packed. So I guess he's kind of a new one. But yeah, there's all these guys that are just like, yeah, these guys could open up for anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just coming along. A lot of it is like they're at that time now where they're doing half hours and they're starting to get time under the belt. They get used to doing longer time. But yeah, that's why you can't cancel the show. And that's why you can't do any of that stuff is because there needs to be a place because there's no place like that for me. And if it didn't work out the way I started where I like moved to Pasadena with my wife at the time, I would have never gone to LA. I would have never done all this. So it's like a place where, I guess it's alternative in a way where everybody knows you can't like make gay slurs.
Yeah.
A guy can say I'm bisexual and nobody's like saying anything like that. If you say bitch, it better be in the right context and it better be funny. So it's like an alternative room in that they command you to be like really smart about the stuff you do. So.
And it served as a nice incubator for these comics for the past 9 years.
And they come out here and stuff now too. And like Lisa Chanou and then Julia, they host and stuff. But Lisa did a half hour this year. Yeah. Julia did a half hour. Nobody hands out half hours in Los Angeles.
No.
So there's definitely. It's there for a reason, and it's really awesome to see all these people become great comics. Me, I'm fucking over it, but
Well, it's time for you to just buy the place. It's time for you to buy it, and then it's comedy.
Well, that goes into into the later part of the podcast.
Oh, I think we can get into it if you'd like to. I mean, the other thing I was going to ask you is, are you still a Lime guy? Are you still driving these Lime scooters?
Oh yeah, I mean, have you seen me on a Lime?
I just seen you posting about it, and I'm like, I don't know, man.
Mike Hernandez, Charles Mockler. There's people who've seen me on Limes.
You're like Angeline.
Yeah. I mean, if you see me on a Lime, it's like pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. Scooting along.
Have you driven a Lime?
Here's my thing about Lime.
Yeah.
And if I'm sounding like an ignorant person, go ahead and tell me. I ride my bike in this city, and my view of the state of the concrete and asphalt in this, I don't know that a scooter creeps me out.
You're correct in many ways. I would say that's the one drawback. I live off of Melrose in Normandy.
Yeah.
And usually I don't drive. We have one parking spot, and in our neighborhood there's if I came home from work at 3 a.m, there's no way I'd find a spot.
Yeah.
So I take the train in to work to Covina, take the Metro Link. But I spend a lot of time in Silver Lake and Los Feliz neighborhoods, and if you take a Lime down from there, there's a couple of streets where it's smooth, but then it gets bad.
You're
absolutely right.
rocky.
Yeah, like Normandy specifically. I'm thinking of is like rough. So I know what you're talking about. But it's a blast. It's like truly fun. It's pretty cheap for the place I'm going and pretty fast.
Yeah.
Like if I'm headed to, it takes me about a 15, 20-minute walk to the Red Line, the Vermont Beverly. So sometimes I'm just like 5 minutes behind.
Yeah.
And like I'll just see a Lime and I'll be like, oh, hell yeah.
It's a Lime.
Yeah. And I had this Lime membership thing. I think it was $10 or $20 for the month.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to, a Lime, it costs $1 to like start it up and then 19 cents a minute.
Yeah.
And with that membership for the month or 2 months, it was like you don't have to pay the startup. So I was just jamming places for like 35 cents. And I was like, yes.
They got you hooked.
Yeah. And it is so fun. You do feel like a kid.
Did you Lime here?
No, I didn't. I drove Julia's car. That would be awesome.
Are you going to upgrade to the electric bike things?
No, I have thought about getting a bicycle and a scooter, but I just can't imagine. I don't know how you haven't died yet. Like people die all the
Well,
time.
my secret to not dying is that I do not, like, as a rule, never at night.
Yeah.
Absolutely not
Yes.
at night. And then you just have to be 100% focused on what's going on in front of you. Like the people that have earbuds in while they are riding a bike in Los Angeles, those people are all going to die. That is insane to me.
So you're like you're like driving a jet. Like I'm gonna die if I don't watch it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to pay total attention. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I was thinking about getting a scooter too. Like, but yeah, we'll see.
Riding a bike around this city, once you get over the the obstacles, it's pretty awesome. Because I don't have a car, and the only way that I see this city is through a bike. The only way that I get to these neighborhoods that I would never get to is through a bike. And it's like not having it made me so depressed for a year and a half. Somebody stole my bike, and like I could feel the depression of it. And once I got another one again, woof, it's back.
I do like walking and liming and all that stuff. It is crazy where you're like, you'll just notice a building or leaves. I know it sounds stupid, but it's like it makes you feel more human to do all those things.
Yeah.
To bike and I mean, biking's really fun too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm with you on that.
See, you're going to choose the sponsor later, but it sounds like you just did a demo reel for Lime right there.
I can't now. I should have. That would have been funnier. You should have pitched me that in the messages or something.
We can still get it. We can still get it in. But let's talk about, we've already touched on it a little bit. Let's talk about exit strategies. Now, you've obviously, you put a lot of time in. You've created countless open mics. You've created the Chatterbox show. You've got, how many podcasts are you up to at this point?
I'm just at 2. I'm starting a 3rd again.
Okay.
I always try them, and I'll give them like a 10 or 20 episodes.
Yeah.
And if I don't feel like
it's hitting.
Yeah, we just had one called Fat and Lonely where we just talked about fat stuff with a guy named Lee, and Julia and I did it, and I just didn't feel like I had much to add to the conversation.
Yeah.
Like as a fat, I'm just not. I don't really.
You don't want to talk about it every week.
I'm fat, but I'm like I don't really. And trust me, I have all these rules in my head as a fat person to get around, but it's just not really. I've not allowed it to drag me down too much, and I'm not exactly fat positive either. I'm like, oh yeah, well this is terrible.
Yeah.
That I'm addicted to food. Yeah.
So that one's out. So now you're only down to 2.
Yeah, so we're down to 2 again.
Going to be 3.
Yeah.
But you're always working on something. You're always you got a project in the comedy world. But now I'm going to take it all away from you. I'm going to say no more of that.
Yeah.
You got to choose a new path to go down.
Yes.
What are we talking here? What would be the new Steve Hernandez? What's he doing with all his time?
I would be a bar or restaurant manager.
Absolutely.
That's all.
This guy's ready to go. He's already got it.
That's all
in mind.
Yeah. I mean, I do pretty well at the Chatterbox. It's a great bar, but I would really pick up 3rd night.
Yeah.
And then become some kind of manager there. If I would ask, because I've got a lot of ideas, a way to like. I bet you I could double their business.
Yeah.
If it was my job.
What is it? Is it just things that they don't think to do? Is it? I guess is like the producer in you working when you're like, why isn't this done this way?
Yeah. That's definitely like, oh yeah, I would do that.
Yeah.
Or I can implement things. I keep track of like liquor costs and everything. I would do a bunch of things differently. The first like few years they had the Chatterbox, 3, 4, 5 years, I did a lot of extra stuff. But at this point, I like stopped because they're like not doing that much extra either.
Yeah.
They both have jobs. The men who own the Chatterbox, they both have jobs, and they're my friends and everything. But I see them a bunch of times. There'll be times where I'm like, "Hey, we don't have any limes," and he's just like, "Well, we're not gonna have any limes tonight." And I'm like, "Oh, you piece of shit."
Yeah, that's not an answer that works for me.
I would do that. I would produce or manage comedy stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff like what Sam Varela does. I really, really like producing things.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting and fun to bring together groups of people. I like the money making aspect of it too.
Which is not there for the performing.
Yeah. For now, I mean, if it was, I like producing stuff a lot. There's a lot of times I would, and I love scouting people and bringing people up and all that, the nurturing of all that stuff. I think it's really fun, and I'm not the kind of comic that like needs to be on the stage, and I don't know if that's like. I don't know if that hinders me or what. It might hinder me.
It might hinder you, but like honestly, it would be nice if there was more people that had that mindset in this town sometimes.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. What good would it do anyone? Who knows?
Well, I think it would do good in that it sounds like one of the things that you like being is sort of an advocate for people in a way.
Yeah.
Maybe not directly, but just sort of like, I don't know, giving people that little, not even non-verbal, like just the little boost, the little thing that they need to keep going, because it's a hard life, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's true, and that's also, that's also why I started all these things, too. So you could, there's levels to attain.
Yeah.
I know everybody likes to be really nice. I don't believe in hazing per se, but out there in Covina, I'm bartending at the open mic thing, and I'm watching everybody, and I'm not nice to everybody. I want you to know that. I want you to know that I'm not. I mean, I'll be, hey, how are you, whatever. But you're not going to get a good set from me. Or I buy people drinks when they have good sets and stuff like that. The way we book the Chatterbox is like to be like a lot of times. People never gone to that show or never gone to that mic, and they keep trying to do it. And I'm like, if you just come to the mic and have a good set 2 times in a row, like I'll put you on the show. I mean, I can't book you more than 2 or 3 times a year. I don't know. I think yours and Dave's show, Holy Fuck, is the first show where I figured out where it's like, oh, and who cares? Like if you do these shows, like it's only once or twice a year they can give you, and that's if you're good.
Yeah. The only people that do it more than once are the people who are already probably making money doing comedy.
Yeah. They're famous people that you use as a draw for the show. But all those things, it's like if you just if you come out to the show, there's people who I just like watch grow, and then it's like, man, you're really trying and you're really putting it together so you can have an 8-minute set on Sunday.
Yeah,
and I mean, I love all that stuff. I love Bruco. Bruco was awesome for that. But you guys don't know, Bruco was like the longest running open mic,
something like 25 years or something crazy.
Ran by Vance Sanders and Robert Yasamura. And they would sit in a table right in front of the stage. And Robert was the mean one, and Vance was nice. And when you started doing comedy, you would go there, and they were mean to you until you could put together a joke. I mean, that's what I figured it out. Because it wasn't exactly like they wouldn't laugh at you. Nobody would laugh at you. It was terrible. So you would just go, but the first time you put together a joke and you have a good set there, you feel like you belong.
Yeah.
I don't think that really. There's not too many places like that anymore.
There probably is. We just automatically feel like we belong when you walk into a room and 90% of the people in it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You're on easy street.
I don't know. There was always you guys were that way. Dave was that way. I was that way. Robert Vance was that way. It's not like there's this next level that are looking to nurture people, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to like talk shit about them. Maybe I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah.
That's quite possible. But I do think that all is, we're a brotherhood and sisterhood. Personhood. I don't like
community.
I like brotherhood better. I'm sorry to non-binary people.
But it's just a word.
Yeah, so I would be a producer and comedy and stuff out here. I would pick up one more night at the Chatterbox. My life would not be that different.
I gotta tell you though, I mean, I know that the Chatterbox, you work there, and it's the easiest thing to see. But let's pie in the sky a little bit, Steve. Like, let's say you can. It sounds like, what if you had? Would you want to open your own place from scratch?
No,
never.
I mean, absolutely not. I'm telling you, the money I could make picking up another shift and like becoming some kind of assistant manager. Those hours would be so killer.
Yeah.
Like, I've worked for the past 10 years. I've worked 16 hours a week, give or take. Some weeks I would pick up a couple more shifts, help people out, but give or take 16 hours a week. I'm in a very blessed. I'm not going to try to act like I did anything to earn it or anything. But that's been my life. I do not want much more than that.
You're not about to be the guy who's like, it's your day off, but the toilet is overflowing at 2 a.m. They're calling you like, can you come down? You're like, I got the key. I got it. Like, I mean, you don't want to be like the guy who's like, it's your life.
I don't mind doing that, but I'm just saying I don't have that kind of ambition.
Yeah.
My ambition comes strictly through relationships and through my comedy, my actual stand-up. I try to figure out who I am through my stand-up.
Yeah.
So I haven't really written any good jokes this year. In 2019, I'm doing new stuff, throwing it against the wall. But I also feel it might be a little while. This might be a year where I'm trying to figure out this next step for
Yeah.
who I am. And so I'm not going to just, I mean, I got an hour 20 I could do anyways. And that's why I should be traveling too, because it's like, let's air this shit out, see if the tires work, kick the tires a little
actually
bit.
use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've started here, and if you've been here as long as I have, and it's just, you just start to wonder if like, oh man, am I even, like, does anyone even care, or it just feels worthless.
Yeah.
Even though I still do pretty well whatever I do, but it's still like, well, who for what? Who gives a shit?
Yeah. It's probably the most frustrating thing for me is any creative endeavor being met with just apathy. Just not that people hate it. That would actually be awesome.
Yeah.
But to throw something out there and it just sort of floats away, and there's no like, you don't get any criticism of it. You don't really understand like, well, what can be made better. It's just in a vacuum, and that's what LA comedy has always felt like to me. You're just sort of doing it, and you're like, well, but where?
Well,
How?
it's even
Where
gotten
do you
worse
go?
with Facebook and YouTube and the way everything's clamped down on things, because you can't even get views on some of that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Just because of the algorithm, where it's just like, oh, on a similar video, I got 7,000 views last time, and now I'll get like 600.
Yeah.
And it's like, why should we make another one?
Well, I mean, like, let's say you start a podcast. You're going to start a podcast.
Yeah.
Let's say you didn't have the other 2 or other 5 or however many. You don't have like a built-in place to be like, this has existed before. If you were starting from scratch, you're like, I've got this project. You can put it on 3 different social media networks.
Yeah.
And if you are just a normal person, like I look at some comedians on a Twitter account that have like 140 followers.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they make an announcement of something, and I'm like, good God, you realize literally no one is seeing that. And that's a frustrating thing, because even though I have more, it's still a lot of times you're just sort of screaming into the wind and hoping that the right person happens to be seeing that at that exact time.
Yeah.
It's, whoa, boy.
Yeah.
LA comedy.
That's why everything I do, that's what I'm saying, is that I have to be okay with, I have a movie podcast with Hernandez and Zed Kutzinger, and I have my religion podcast with Amy Miller, and I just have to be like, would it be okay if I'm just hanging out with these people every week? Would that be okay?
Enough? Yeah.
And it's like, yes, it would be okay.
Yeah.
I would love to see these people every week. And luckily, our numbers are all doing pretty great for all those things, but I'm very aware that if somebody changes some kind of platform thing, that my numbers could be gone too.
Yeah.
At this point, yeah.
That's why we got to be the first adapter on everything. We got to get on TikTok. Okay, wait, quick before we move on, I just want to, let's sum up the exit strategy. Basically, you're going to do what you're going to do already, but you're going to be...
I would pick up another
shift.
I would literally pick up a shift at the Chatterbox.
Let me ask you this, though. Would
Yeah.
you work at the Chatterbox if there was no comedy? And you've already talked about shutting it down comedy-wise. Would you still be able to... Like, would it kind of be like, oh, this is just another... Like, would this place feel less special to you?
I don't know. I mean, I think they really do feed into each other. So,
Yeah.
like my boss, he does a pretty good job. He pays the flyer guy. We pay our flyer guy $60 a week. He gives us like a $60, $70 bar tab, and he gives us $100 cash to pay comedians to do it. So that's like they're doing a pretty good job taking care of us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I couldn't get that really anywhere else.
Oh, for sure.
And it's been happening for years like that. And I do believe we benefit him. No, Sunday nights are like a big night at the Chatterbox. But I don't know.
Yeah, comedy's not there. Are you still going
I
into
also
work?
make great money there, and I've been there for so long. I used to tell the girls there, and I still do tell them this. It's just a trick I do. I'd be like, don't worry, I'm not going to date you till you're like 28 or something. And it like relaxes the like 22-year-olds.
Yeah.
So then they're like, oh, he's not a creep. But I've been there so long, a lot of them turn 28, 29.
It's time to...
And then they want to take a run at the God. I'm like, oh, come on. Especially now that I'm not drinking. I can't.
no.
I couldn't have sex with anybody anymore.
Is it weird to work in a bar when you're not drinking?
No. It's just
sort of another day.
it's not my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't smoke weed. I've never liked weed.
Yeah.
It's just that's not my thing.
Okay.
So with drinking, that's how I feel about it too. It's not, I mean, it's taken years and to get old enough to be like, especially now, because when I started, I would look at it as a place to meet women. I'd be like, oh yeah, this is really cool. But it's a pretty young bar.
Yeah.
So everyone is about 23, 24 years old. And I'm not attracted to a 24-year-old, especially one in Covina. So it's like, to me, it becomes more and more like, I really associate drinking like as a sexy thing. Like, it's really cool to have a drink with a woman. I think that's really, but I wouldn't want to have a drink with. I would just be hurting their feelings and destroying their lives.
You wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Exactly.
Well, I just see, I guess in the future, like a 73-year-old Steve Hernandez behind the bar.
It could be worse. And I could probably bartend that long because I only work 2 shifts a week.
Well, you're going to be running the place.
Yeah.
And you'll know when you go in to talk to Steve on his nights that he's working, he's going to have a lot of stories about all those comedians you've seen on television and the movies.
Yes.
Because they started right here, kid. Right here at the Chatterbox. All right. Thank you very much for, venting about.
It does feel like a vent session.
Because I'm in event mood too. We both hit event mood. Sometimes you get those moments where it's just two comics being like, God.
I don't agree. I mean, I believe in not comparing yourself. Yeah. And I know that my walk, my journey in particular is very interesting and different. So it really is it wasn't going to unfold like anybody else's. I mean, I'm, this queer, ex-Christian, like weirdo, polyamory person. It's almost like I don't blame the industry because I haven't figured out how to make myself that thing either. And so I don't blame them for not knowing how to do it. So maybe it's just going to take me a few more years to figure it out.
Package that persona.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We're just going to keep working. We're going to keep plugging away at it.
Yeah, it's not why I didn't start it for that reason either. I didn't think it would. I mean, when I started, I was like, no matter what, in 8 years, I'm going to be 40, and then I'm going to be a great comedian. I'll be a bartender and a great comedian, or else I'd be something else. And I'd be, who cares? And now I'm that age, and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? Even though there's nothing else I would rather be doing. That's the fucked up part.
That's the thing, though. That's the whole dilemma of being a comic is that you can't get it out of your life at all. Even though we talk about the exit strategy, it's always going to be in your blood somewhere.
Yep.
You're going to be 70 years old, and you're going to say, oh, open mic? I wonder if I still got it. You're going to walk in there, and you're going to try.
Yep.
Well, before we talk about us being septuagenarian stand-up comedians going to open mics, I'm going to give you an opportunity to sell out big time. When we come back, you're going to choose the sponsor for this week's episode, Steve. Maybe they're going to hear it. They're going to go, this is the guy we want on every commercial, every package. We're going to find out who the sponsor is right after this. We're having just a classic comic bitch sesh, rap sesh. One of you just need to have it every once in a while. I'm glad that we're both sort of in the same boat here today.
Yes,
it's nice to vent.
Yes,
a little bit.
Yeah, I just think because I'm sick too. So you just caught me at a very weak point. I feel just weak.
Oh, what would it be like if it was 2 weeks ago and you came in? What would have been the difference in?
I don't know. Probably pretty similar.
Pretty much.
Like I said, this year is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Just coming up on 9 years, and I've done a few things where it's like, oh man, if you would have told me 6 years ago that I was going to get those things, I would have been like, whoa. And even this week, I'm going to Arizona with Amy Miller and Caitlin Warehouser, and we're doing something like 8 shows.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to make money and all this crazy stuff. And it's like, we're going to podcast with Stanhope on Sunday. And I would have been just like, wow, this is like the best thing in the world. And just now I'm just like, who cares? Like I should, it almost with comedy, it almost feels like you get the stuff just too late. Like just a couple years too late. So it just doesn't mean anything.
When you get those, it's always that moment when you're like, there's that big show you want to get on that show and you want to finally do it. You want to finally have your set there, and you do it, and it probably goes okay. But then afterwards, you're like, "Oh, everything's the same."
Well, it's because each generation has their own like a few chosen ones. You know, like Jack Knight was like this. Wiseman was like that too. Even though Lord knows he works his ass off for everything he's ever done. But there's just people who few years in, they just got everything like real like that, and it's like, all right. And the rest of us,
We're just trying to figure it out, man. Just trying to figure out how to live and also be a comic too. It's a hard balance. And the thing is that when you ask those people about their mental state or their struggles, you'll find out that they have them, but they're just slightly different. Or it's all of us go through some bullshit in this. That's just how it is. But let's cut the bullshit. Let's live on easy street, baby.
Yes.
I want you to be the next Flo from Progressive. I want you to get a sweet deal with your new sponsor here.
Did you just tweet about Flo this week?
No, but I should. That wasn't me. No, I didn't tweet about Flo. But maybe I will. We don't have sponsors on this show. We don't have any way of making money from, I don't know, who are the podcast sponsors these
MeUndies?
MeUndies. We don't have MeUndies. We don't have that. We don't have any promo codes. We rely on the guest to choose a sponsor, and maybe, just maybe, they'll perk up some ears. We'll find out in a couple of years. You're going to be the spokesperson for this. Now, Steve, who is the sponsor for this week's episode?
It's Grave Before Shave. I pulled
He's
it out of my
actually got
pocket.
the product.
Yeah, it's
and you also you went the extra mile of having it right side up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like practically taking a picture
like
with
two
this stuff.
camera.
It's Grave Before Shave. It's a beard balm that I use, and I like the cigar blend particularly. Smell that.
Oh,
it's really good, right?
Grave Before Shave. So basically, this is what you put on, because I don't have a beard. I was not blessed with the ability to do a beard.
Yeah, it's a beard balm. It like calms your beard down. It makes it look presentable. It gives it a little bit of a sheen.
Yeah. Makes you look good. It makes you feel good.
Makes you smell good.
Makes you smell good.
Which, trust me, as a fat guy, that's why I try to push this for all fat guys with beards. Like, make sure you're using a product of some kind. You can get this stuff, Grave Before Shave, on from Amazon for $13 or $14. But it's you got a nice cologne on, or you even this several times. Babes of all genders, non-binary people giving me a hug and go, you smell good.
You smell good.
Like, oh, what is that? You know,
what is if you don't balm it? What is a beard stink like?
It's not it might not smell like anything.
It's just like.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're not. I'm not saying devoid of smell.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, especially for a fat guy and a fat guy with a beard. We've got to always be combating the idea that we smell all the time.
Okay.
So even if you smell good for fat guy and he smells like nothing, a lot of people might be like, "Oh, my nose is stuffed up." He for sure smells.
Yeah.
So you give him this cigar scent. It's a very masculine, like outdoorsy, naturey, like.
But not too hard. I sniffed it.
It's real subtle.
Edge.
That's what I mean. This is what you're going for when you got to do this. So I like it. It smooths down. It looks like I still give a shit about my beard, and it gets all those hairs down too, so you can kind of shape it with your hands even. But this stuff I started using it maybe 2 years ago, and like I said, I love it. I got a cologne, a couple of spurts I do, put on the shirt, and before I leave, get this on me, and I feel great. I get compliments all the time, along with brushing your teeth and flossing. This is with the thing, and this is Hollywood, baby.
You gotta look good.
You gotta smell good.
Yeah.
You gotta look good. People remember bad breath. They'll remember if you smell off. And so I love Grave Before Shave, and I turn everybody onto this stuff. So I buy it for people at the bar a lot of times, and I'll just give it to them, or
You could have a Grave Before Shave promotional night here at the Chatterbox.
I mean, I would love to sell a version of this with some kind of big hernia face on this.
Now we got to start talking.
Oh, yeah,
here.
yeah, and that's what I mean. Very easily, I would love to. And my beard is such a signature part of my look. I think it would make sense for me to sell something like this for $10.
What is the scent of the Steve Hernandez Grave Before Shave? Like, you got to go into the lab with these olfactory scientists and
2-day-old Del Taco. I think that's got to be my personal brand.
A Crave case that's still got a couple in it. Like
some dehydrated cheese, a little lettuce, shredded lead, floating around
right there on your face, right there on the thing saying, "Wink, get to it."
But I do, if you have a beard, I do suggest highly use Grave Before Shave. I love the cigar blend. It's a great beard balm, and I've got nothing but compliments from it.
All right. Well, you heard it. Grave Before Shave. maybe head on down to the Chatterbox. Steve will let you try his.
And I really should have picked lime because I really am it's very much behind.
We got it in the bank. We could always swap the audio and just do. We got plenty of lime in there. But as far as you, Steve, if people want to know more about you or hear more about you, you got another podcast coming out.
I guess maybe it would be coming out the week after this. So I might as well. It's called Horned Up. It's just a weekly discussion with my co-host. We take a look at the news through a horny prism. That's co-host with Alan Strickland Williams and Brody. Brody Reed.
Very perfect.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We've been juggling a lot, too. So, yeah, that comes out, I believe, on June 9th or 10th. So that comes out next week. So this is a good little promotional run.
News from a horny perspective.
Yeah, so like this week, I mean, we've been writing and stuff, but like this week with the Moby stuff and the Leonardo DiCaprio stuff, or that's last week, I think.
Yeah.
But we record on Saturdays. We were like, oh, man. What a field day for us to talk about Leo DiCaprio and Moby and all this shit. They're a horny vibe. And, you know, Brody's more liberal. I'm a little more conservative. Alan doesn't give a fuck about anything.
Alan's everywhere, baby.
Yeah. And then Zed Kutzinger is going to be a part of that, too, as a producer / host. But we're going to interview women, too. I know there's horn dog women out there, too.
Oh, yeah.
So, we're going to do all that, but I'm looking forward to that. I also have Who's Your God with Amy Miller. That's a religion ethics podcast. That's really fun and really popular. And my movie podcast, Views from the Vista. We watch everything that comes out at the Vista here in Los Feliz or the Los Feliz 3, and then whatever the fuck. But that's with Hernandez and Zed Kutzinger as well. And that's a real fun podcast.
So there's plenty of places to listen to Steve Hernandez if you like what you're hearing. And then also go to the Chatterbox on Sunday nights, and he's behind the bar, and ask him if he'll rub something in your beard.
Yeah, you could just smell me, too.
Just smell him. Just go up to him and smell him. Tap him on the shoulder and then take a big old whiff.
All sexes, all genders. Who knows? You know I'm a freak.
Just make sure that he's, not busy. Steve, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I've enjoyed this little check-in sesh with a peer of mine. It's been a fantastic time.
Oh, great. Thank you, Jeff. It was really good talking to you, too. We've known each other for so long, and I think we're going to fucking know each other for another 10 years, too.
Probably true.
Yeah.
It's probably true. Well, I'll see you in 2029. All right, that's been Exit Strategy for this week. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.